to the Villa Filler podcast here. My good friend Dan Wiseman. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I'm all right actually. Thank you. Yeah. Plenty to talk about. Obviously, we've not done a podcast since the Birmingham game. The last topic we obviously talked about in the last podcast. 4-2. Extremely great result on paper. Didn't quite go to plan though straight away, did it?
No. And it was interesting because I think obviously everyone pointed out Jukovic as the danger man. If anyone was going to spoil the party, it would have been him. But it was interesting because we went 1-0 down, and I remember in previous derbies, conceding the goal gave me a sickening feeling. I hated it. I got so nervous, but I didn't have that. No. I felt quite confident. We'll talk about the Forest game in a bit, and I feel like it was a similar feeling when we went behind them. But I've got such faith in this team that we went behind, and I was confident, and the turnaround was pretty much instantaneous.
Yeah, and Birmingham talk about it being a game of two halves if you look at their perspective, and I don't really agree with that, obviously.
No.
I think we didn't turn up for the first 30 minutes, that's fair to say, but it's interesting to see just what one spell of pressure did, because we scored straight away.
Yeah.
We didn't really look like we were in it before.
No.
Obviously a fantastic ball in for the goal, and we're back in it.
Yeah, it's really, it flipped on its head pretty much instantly, and when Shea Adams hit the post, I saw a lot of Blues fans saying that that would have changed the game if they'd have gone 2-0 up. But I think last night's game is proof that even if we go 2 goals behind at home, you can never rule us out. I still think we would have clawed it back. But yeah, it was pretty much instant. Once we got on the front foot, I can see it being with Villa for the rest of the season. Once you get us on the front foot, there's no stopping us.
Yeah, I think the momentum, it clearly just swung in our way, and we really took it in our stride. Fantastic to see Grealish score against the Blues. I don't think I've ever celebrated a goal that much in my life.
Incredible.
Blues fans complaining he dives all the time. Well, he dived and he scored, so we'll take that.
It's a win-win, isn't it?
It's a win-win, yeah. Since obviously talking to people about it afterwards, people were from a neutral perspective saying, well, it was an open goal. Who gives a fuck?
Mate, at the end of the day, it's what he's been dreaming about. It's what we've all dreaming about, and I think it happened in slow motion when you saw that ball come across from a dome. It just seemed like forever as it was curling round.
But that ball was immaculate. Wasn't it?
It was great. It was perfect, choreographed. Well. Yeah, God knows how we saw that. Whether he meant to get that bend on it, but yeah, what a ball in.
Yeah, I mean Lee Camp surely has to do a lot better for that goal. But we
won't speak about that.
We won't complain too much about that, will we? Obviously, Codger scoring first. Great to see him back in the goals. On the Blues' performance alone, would you say that he is he's back?
To tell the truth, I don't think we'll ever see the Codger that we once had again. That first season, I think the injury that he picked him up, I don't think he's ever quite hit those heights. And I never used to really like him as a winger, but I have to say in the Blues game I was quite impressed with him. I thought, being out wide, it encourages him to bring other people into the game, which I think is a problem for him when he plays up top. He can be quite selfish. But he brings other people into the game. He was lively, he was dangerous, and I feel like that's one of the closest we've seen him to being back at his best. He didn't really get a lot of credit for the goal, but I thought to remain calm in that situation, put it nicely into the corner, through the bodies, was a good finisher. It was really nice to see Codge score as well.
It's the kind of position he's been trying to occupy when Smith's been playing him out on the wing, and he never really seems to be at the far post for the cross in the right place, so it was good to see it obviously fall to him then. We went and got the third goal obviously through Tammy Abraham from a penalty. Seen a few people, obviously not Villa fans, said it wasn't a penalty, but the touchdown was immaculate, wasn't it?
Perfect, wasn't
and if
it?
he gets around the Blues defender, he's scoring.
Yeah, I think it was a testament to Tammy, because I think for the touch alone and the position that would have put him in had he not been fouled, he deserved a goal. So I thought, in that sense, the penalty was justice. I can see why people called it light, but at the end of the day, if you've got a big bloke like Tammy and you're putting, your arms in places that they shouldn't be, he's got every right in that situation to go down and win his team a penalty.
Exactly, and what a strike as well. I mean, off the post and in, but when you're hitting a penalty that hard, no one's saying it.
Unbelievable penalty. I had full, in front of the Holte end in a derby, there's a lot of pressure on that penalty, because we weren't in the clear, obviously we were still at 2-1, and yeah, he kept it cool. It was a great penalty, wasn't it? Yeah,
it was. as you say, nice in front of the Holte end as well. Shame Jack didn't score in front of the Holte end, as that's what his tweet stated.
Yeah, so it wasn't quite there. No. We'll have to wait till next season for that.
Yeah, we'll avoid promotion. It's fine. And obviously, after that, they pegged us back again. Pedersen with the goal. Really sloppy defended.
Yeah, really poor. Really poor. It's just disappointing, to be honest, because I thought by that point we had Blues covered. I feel like they were penned in. They weren't posing much of a threat. We were starting to command. You know, after the Olays were coming out, and, you know, it was good. But yeah, it's just disappointing. We switched off for a second, and that's been the tale of our season, hasn't it? Really, the defence just switched off. Disappointing from Allen. Just watches it onto Pedersen's boot. It seems, but in the scheme of things, it's a derby. I can understand why you can get lost in the occasion, I suppose, and I'm going to put it down to that.
It pains me to say it, but it was a magnificently worked goal.
Yeah,
they almost turned into Barcelona for a second. So even though they are our rivals, you've got to admire the goal in a way.
Yeah, definitely.
I think Villa's problem under Smith is he likes to have possession. Obviously, it's his game. He wants his centre backs playing out from the back. But when we're 3-1 up in a derby, and there's still 25 minutes to go, Chester doesn't need to be doing little 1-2s with Tanzabi, and it's been the tale of quite a lot of games recently, and it caught us on the arse there, and thankfully we didn't end up losing the game as a result of it. But we messed about with the ball at the back so much, didn't we? Unjustifiably.
Yeah, I think it was strange because you can clearly see there's a lot of confidence coursing through the team, despite the problems that we've got defensively. I think the Blues game added to that. But yeah, I think there is a time and a place, isn't there, for the football that Dean Smith is trying to put in place, and I feel like, as I say, I think we got a little bit too comfortable. It's probably the reason that we conceded the goal as well. I think we felt like that we had Blues pretty much covered and we were taking control, and I think we just got a bit sloppy, probably a bit too cocky in places, and I think it explains that as well.
Yeah, and I saw a stat on Twitter, and I think El Mohammadi, who came on in the 77th minute, something like that, and played central midfield, which wow,
that was amazing.
Had more touches than a single Blues player throughout the entire 90 minutes. He was on for 13 minutes.
Yeah, I saw that the Blues completed some embarrassingly small, especially in their final third. I think we had more touches in it than they did.
Yeah.
But what did we expect? When you've got a player like Jukovic up top, there's only one way you can play, isn't there?
He's not going to dribble through.
No, absolutely. So I suppose it's only a product of the ingredients they have, I suppose.
Yeah, and speaking of dribbling through the defence, I think a day that every single Villa fan never thought they'd see, but did.
Unbelievable.
Alan
I can't help
Hutton,
but smile.
20 yards from inside his own half, runs all the way, opens up his body, goes past Craig Gardner.
It was beautiful, wasn't it?
It was unbelievable, and I can say that I was there when he scored against Hull at the start of the season away from home, which was incredible. But I think everyone was sort of envious when that goal went in.
Mate.
Everyone wanted to be in them limbs, and when Hutton scored, the whole place erupted.
Mate, it was crazy. It was crazy. I mean, he picks it up, and I was sat just to the left of the dugout, a few seats down, so I could kind of see from behind his goal. And he just picks it up, and because of where I sat, I was quite low down. I didn't really get a perspective of where the lines were, or I couldn't see them on the pitch, so he just kept running. And when he kind of lined up to shoot, I still thought he was like 20-30 yards out. I thought there's no way, and he just bent it in the bottom corner. And when you watch it back, it's absolutely, the commentary from BBC is amazing. I could not believe it.
It's incredible. I love it because Hutton, he's one that he's probably had a bit of a backwards sort of trajectory in terms of Villa career. He was one that when he came, no one really wanted, and
a bit of a
performed a bit poorly, yeah. And I was speaking to the bloke who sits next to me and my dad, and he reminded us of his loan spell out to Mallorca when Lambert got rid of him, and to think that this man is now our first choice right back, and that he's written his name in folklore, jumping in the Holte end. I think
that tops it off, doesn't it?
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah. Is it Villa legend status for Alan then?
Yeah,
I think so too.
I think when you talk about great derby goals, obviously one that comes to mind is Gary Cahill. I think this tops it.
Yeah, no, I do. I do. It's certainly the best I've seen.
I think for a lot of people don't. You've either got you've got your passion camp and you've got your effort camp. But Holte for me falls into both of them.
Yeah.
And he doesn't. He, to be honest, has no reason to have as much love for the club as he does, because he has been treated extremely poorly in the past. And he's a fan favourite now. Obviously, there's people who still may not rate him, but the guy is a Villa legend in my eyes.
Yeah, look, we can't forget the situations he signed a new contract in the summer. Taking a pay cut, which I imagine he regrets. Yeah, given how the summer turned out. But no, he took a pay cut, and I think we all wanted to see Alan stay, and he's got you can question his performance in that game, but he definitely made up for it, didn't he?
Definitely, it was unbelievable, and seeing him and Grealish go towards the whole end at full time. Obviously, I've not seen the Sky interview that they did because I was at the game, but to see them go over,
it looked beautiful, didn't it?
Yeah, the love that they've got, because he's been at the club for 7 years. He signed on the same day as Jermaine Genius. And
doesn't that seem forever?
Jermaine Genius hasn't ran 70 yards and scored against the Blues, has he? Jermaine. He's a nice guy, actually. I bumped into him in Costa at Media City.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Because obviously he does 5 Live, and
of course.
I was meeting the fam last year, and Dad was like, "That's Jermaine Genius."
Villa legend.
Yeah, of course. And we went up to him, spoke to him, and I put the picture here actually, if I can find it. And my dad said, it's a shame we didn't get to see you play, which would have been that. And he I think he took it the wrong way.
Yeah, I was going to say, I can imagine how he took that.
Yeah, which, but he's got himself a decent punditry career now, hasn't he?
I mean, when we speak of not forgettable loans, but Robbie Keane retired this weekend, it reminded me of...
I really like Robbie Keane.
A great pro, and I love when he came to Villa, his goals against Wolves. So.
Yeah, he was linked with the assistant manager for Ireland with.
He got it.
Did he? Did he get it? Oh, that's good. It's a weird appointment though, McCarthy.
Yeah,
he's already been there and done it.
I saw Bruce linked with it, so it could have been worse.
Hogan was shitting himself.
Whelan wasn't.
Yeah, no, he was loving it. But you know what? He probably would have been dropped after missing that penalty. So I think we'll talk about last night's game against Forest now, Dan. Being 1-0 down within 3 minutes and 2 obviously within the 6, it was insane. It really was. And if I'm being honest, it's easy to say with hindsight, and as you said about the Blues game, I wasn't that worried.
No.
I really wasn't.
I mean, I don't know whether that's just a product of how much time we had left in the game, but we've seemed to have simultaneously built the worst defence and the best attack in the league, and the Blues game, it was remarkably similar.
Yeah. How
as soon as we got one back, we just flicked a switch, and we were able to get straight back in the game. And it's a testament that the lads have clearly got so much confidence, and when the passes start and we put in the moves together, and the mood at Villa Park lifts, I feel like we are really a force. But we just turned up far too complacent. I think. As soon as we, walked off the pitch of the Blues game, we felt like we'd already beaten Notts Forest. Yeah. It was kind of a party. Everyone, spirits were high. It was good to be back at Villa Park, but I think it was just complacency, and I think the team walked out and already won it before we got out there.
And that was very much the story under Bruce, really, wasn't it? I think the one thing I said to my dad before the game was, we can't have another Wolves and QPR type scenario where we dismantled Wolves and crumbled to a very poor QPR side last year. And as you say, the mentality in that squad must be incredible to have kept coming back. And obviously Balassi starting his first game, ideally I think for Smith, he was probably hoping that he wouldn't have to just yet, but seeing the impact he's had, fantastic delivery into Tammy, and I think it comes off his back, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But he's up there. They all count.
That's what I mean. I think Tammy Abraham. If we do go up this season, that's a big if. I don't care what the fee is. We have to sign Tammy Abraham. He. It seems like because obviously there could be this potential sting with the cap on the amount of players that you could have on loan, which would probably affect Chelsea more than it would any other team in the world.
Of course.
where it's like 45 players that have got on loan or whatever, something ridiculous. And so, yeah, I think Tammy fits the system. 10 in 13 for the with an assist is ridiculous. And yes, 4 of them came in one game, but that's even more testament to the man that Tammy Abraham is. He can score any type of goal. You can play, the typical big man. He can back into the defenders. He can make himself a nuisance in the air. But for all 6'4" of him, 6'3" of him, he's so good on the deck. He's got bag of technical ability. One minute he can run in behind, he can be playing on the shoulder. The next he's backing up into the player. He's so multi-dimensional. I think he's perfect for Dean Smith.
He really is, and I think at first I think I mentioned in the last podcast, I had this vision of what I thought Tammy Abraham was, and I thought he was the man who, as you say, is on the shoulder, just beating players to pace, because that's what he seemed to do at Bristol. But I think it's fantastic that he is able to give Dawson and who else was that? I know Hefele came on, but give them sort of a run for the money. And I keep saying this about him, but the way he leads the line, that guy's got such a mature footballing brain, and seeing him get pissed off at Codger for not pressing and barking out the orders at such a young age, for me, shows not only does he have potentially a great future ahead of him at Aston Villa, but in terms of maybe even at Chelsea, or even if he's not getting a look in at Chelsea, wherever this guy goes, he's going to score goals. Even for England, I honestly think that come the next World Cup, Tammy Abraham is maybe the guy to play off Harry Kane.
Yeah, honestly, he's got so much potential, and as you said, it's the maturity that strikes me. He interacts very well with the fans. Huge amount of professionalism, because I think I've mentioned this before on the podcast. In that he didn't want to come to the Championship.
Yeah.
He felt that he was good enough to play at Premier League level, which I can now see being fair enough.
Yeah.
It must have been quite annoying for him to have to drop that down to the Championship. I imagine he didn't really want to come to Villa in the first place, but he's come here, handled himself very professionally. He's got on with his business. He's scored the goals. And I think a lot of young players would have sulked in that situation, wouldn't have put it in. But he's given everything for the club. We've been really fortunate with loan players in recent seasons. I think Tammy's another example of that.
Definitely, scoring 4 goals, and even for him and 5 in the game to not win at home, he's incredible. And I genuinely do think I left the game feeling very conflicted, because I was disappointed we didn't win. I was angry we conceded so many. I was happy we scored so many. And the mentality, as we've touched on in the squad, fantastic to come back from. But we only led that game once.
Yeah, it was remarkable, and it's what we got. When we got Dean Smith, and we Brentford's were the entertainers of the Championship. Yeah. Everyone branded, and I think that was the title that everyone then wanted to put on Villa, and that's what we are. I think I'm not going to get too hung up over the fact we conceded 5, and you can pick holes in a lot of players' performance in that game. But if you'd have said to the Villa that we're under Steve Bruce, that we're toothless, that a couple of minutes time we're involved in 10-goal thrillers at home, after putting 6-goal thrillers in the derby, this is what it's all about. There's excitement back at Villa Park, and I think for one we've got to try and take that as a positive.
Yeah, and obviously disappointing, as we've said, to concede so many, but we won't be too hung up on that. I do want to say how good Joe Lolly was. This guy is one, and he only scores screamers, he does. And watching him from afar and knowing a few people who are Forest fans coming into the game saying he was going to be a threat, being involved, scoring 1 and assisting 4. He was involved in all 5 goals. And he's a Villa fan as well. And I think one of his mates tweeted something like, to think 5 years ago we were all in our uni flat watching Villa play Reading, and now he's just gone and massacred Villa, despite being a Villa fan. What a player. He was playing, apparently he's playing in the West Midlands Super League or whatever it's called, 8th tier English football or whatever it is.
He's
5 years ago.
He's a player that I'd love to come to Villa, because I feel like he deserves it. And I always like to see Villa fans or those ex-Villa players, like, when you Callum Robinson's comes to town and stuff like that, I've always taken a particular interest in their performance. And Lally was, he's always quite vocal about the Villa, he's very outspoken about his support for the club, and it was, I kept an eye on, and it wasn't easy, so it wasn't hard to keep your eye on him, because he was everywhere yesterday.
He was.
Really impressed with him, and great credit to the lad, and hopefully, there could be a swan song with him maybe in future years, because he's certainly got a lot of potential.
Definitely. He only scores screamers, Joe Lally.
Yeah, him, Adam Reach, Conor Horan as well, maybe.
We won't talk too much about Conor Horan just yet.
No, we won't. I've already had that conversation today, and we're not going to do that again.
We actually tweeted out and asked you guys for some questions, and we were overwhelmed with the responses.
All 5 responses.
All 5 responses, yeah. No, we really appreciate you guys who tweeted in. It was on short notice, and we do have 24,000 followers, but
we'll keep
that. So we're now going to have a look at some questions and
answer them, I suppose.
Yeah. Right. So we'll get into some of the questions from you guys now. First one from at Ryan Pitcher. Give him a follow if you don't already. The overrun in the middle of the park against certain teams, i.e. Forest, who are quick to counter, does it work having Hourihane as a deep lying player who can be a little bit indisciplined positionally at times, in there with McGinn and Grealish?
No. Is the short answer to that one. No, I don't think it does. In the more comfortable games, I think the Bolton game at home, on the podcast I said I was quite impressed with Horan's performance, and I think in those low pressure games, where he's kind of got a bit more freedom, he suits. But I'm going to have to say it on the podcast, Dan, I'm going to have to say it, but we missed Glenn Whelan yesterday, and that pains me to say, but we did. We could have done with him.
Next one, I don't know if you follow this guy, he's very Callum Watkins, at Callum Watkins 9. I came across his Twitter and he's so funny. What is your opinion on grown men suggesting that Jake Dulhay should be in the starting 11? I fucking love this guy. I've never met him, but I love him.
I say the same to those suggestions that I said to the ones that Grealish should be dropped a few weeks ago. Absolute nonsense.
I agree.
Yeah, surprisingly.
I agree.
Surprisingly.
At Andy Alexander, at age, I'm not even going to say that. It's Andy Alexander. That's his name. What's better, a Brucey 0-0 or a Dino 5-5?
The Brucey 0-0. Yeah, that's the one.
And he followed that up with, would you rather have Abraham Balassi and Tanzabi and Nyland, or go back to Grabban, Snodgrass, Terry and Johnston from last season? Tammy's become a real focal point in the attack, but Terry and Johnston made the defence much stronger.
We're definitely more entertaining this year, and I think I'd probably rather have this year's side than last year's, because I feel like last year, given the age of the squad, there was a bit of a ceiling. I could see, especially if we got promoted, there was only so far we could go, but I like the younger side to this squad, and I think it's probably got a bit more bite going forward.
Yeah, I think, the Baggies fans seem to hate Johnston.
Right.
Don't they?
I know he had a pretty frosty reception when he first came to Villa. He wasn't everyone's favourite. He took a season to convince everyone that he was the right man, and I hope he does the same there, because I do want the best for him, despite it being a Baggies. But
a goalkeeper can only be as good as his back four, and that may even be the case for Nyland. Well, maybe Nyland's better with another centre half that comes in obviously the goalkeeper gives the defenders confidence, but
vice versa, isn't it?
Yeah,
I suppose in that situation.
there's got to be a level of trust, and I think you could always rely on JT to have the team sorted out. At the back.
Well, absolutely.
I don't think JT does a job this year for us. Personally, at Astrum Forge, we're at Sam Smith. His handle is not the Sam Smith. He's not a Villa fan.
Oh, you have me excited.
Is Axel as good as everyone says he is? What does JT bring to the mix? The defence looks frail and at breaking point. I rate Axel Tanzabi so highly. I genuinely do, and I thought last night he was very good as well. And when you think of a natural ball playing centre half, Axel Tanzabi is the epitome of this century's defender.
He's
He's so good. He's his balance is incredible, which is something I never thought I'd say about a man. And you know, you can in a one-on-one situation, obviously, unless it's against Lewis Grabban, you bet your money on Axel every single time, wouldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Very good temperament as well, at Axel. Very level-headed. He doesn't lose his head. You very rarely see him dive in. I like that about him. But in response to the JT section of that question, which is something that I'm particularly interested in, is I'm slightly disappointed with JT. I'd like to have thought by now he would have had a little bit more of an impact on the defence. I'd like to think it would have been showed up a little bit more than it has been.
Is the problem with the defence or the midfield though, as you know, as we spoke about before, with Hourihane being in a deep role? Because the first goal against Forest, Hourihane and Chester, they both weren't communicating. They fouled each other and then they're through.
Yeah,
a lot of people have been showing a screenshot of Forest just as Grabban goes and to take the shot, or whoever it was for the first goal, I can't remember. And Chester's not in the shot. That's because Hourihane's just crunched him.
Yeah. They took. It's. I think both said a goalkeeper is only as good as his defence, which I feel is probably only as good as the midfield in front of them. That's the way it is. And although on paper there's quite a nice balance to this Villa team, I feel. It looks quite solid. It's a different story in real life, isn't it?
Yeah. Another one from Ryan. Would you be looking to replace Nyland in January or stick with him until the end of the season? If so, who would you target? Mistakes cost points, especially for keepers. It could be the difference between promotion or not, don't you think? Obviously, Dan has said on the podcast a lot how much he is an Oyen Nyland fan, and thankfully these podcasts don't get half as many views as we'd like them to. What do you think on this situation, Dan?
Well, honestly,
you probably wouldn't be able to show your face a bit.
No, I think it's going to have to be a paper bag from here on in. I like Oyen, and I do, and you're really not helping me out, mate, if you're watching. Because I really want him to do well, and he makes some good saves, and he's a good shot stopper, and he's kept us in some games, and I keep saying that, so please give me more reason. But yeah, I think last night, even for me, was the moment where, right, this has gone too far now, and maybe with a more consistent, solid defence, he'd be a different goalkeeper, but we haven't got the time to figure that out. And Tom Heaton seems to be the link, probably the most linked player I've seen with us in January, so it'd be interesting to see if that goes ahead, and he'd be a very good signing. But yeah, I think unfortunately for Oyen, a spell on the bench might be the order of the day.
For now.
At least.
And one from another writer, member of the team, Jamie App. He, again, kind of touching on the defence, saying that there's been quite a lot of criticism for Nyla, Chester and Taylor recently. What he's asking is, in January, what do you think we can do to fill the plugs, plug the holes?
Yeah, I think it's there's a lot that needs to be done, and I think pretty much every, if you include the goalkeeper, pretty much every position in that back five is under threat, because I feel like the lack of depth in the squad has led to players probably getting a little bit too comfortable. I think Chester and players like that will always have in the back of the mind that they can drop a stinker like he did against the Blues, and he'll still be the first name on the team sheet purely because we have that lack of depth. So having a few more options, I think we need two more athletic, probably a bit more intelligent wing backs. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see new players come in any of those positions, to be honest with you.
And finally, from Dave,
my favourite question:
should he get pizza? Guys.
Pizza or Chinese? What's the takeaway of choice?
Well, now you said Chinese, I fancy Chinese, Dan, if I'm honest.
Chinese, Dave. That's the response.
Chinese.
Here,
not even pizza.
The Villa filler.
This is what sponsored by Good View Chinese.
One day, if anyone's out there,
do you know what? We
can plug prawn crackers all day.
Oh, mate, we'll have them right here, just eating them in the podcast. I would love that. So yeah, that kind of I think wraps up the podcast quite nicely as we go toward the Chinese.
Absolutely, that's where we're off now.
Yeah, I don't know about you, Dan, but I'm still feeling good after the Forest game.
Yeah,
and I'm not so optimistic for Middlesbrough purely based on how they play. But things can only get better. They really can. And I think it's small victories for Villa at the moment. Keeping a clean sheet would be very big. We've done that in quite a few games recently. Obviously, the Forest game, 5 goals, but plenty more to come from this Villa side. Dan, it's been a pleasure as always.
As always, thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, thank you for being on. Thank you guys for listening and for your questions. Like the video if you enjoyed. Comment your thoughts below on the podcast. Any more questions that you want answering, and subscribe for more. We've been growing at a nice little rate. Trying to get 1,000 subscribers by the turn of the new year. It may happen. It may happen.
It's up to you.
Yeah, it's up to you guys. So subscribe. Up the Villa.